some sort of subversion. How do these wealthy, influential people who should be highly intelligent get so easily subverted by an Epstein?
I think with Epstein, it's not racism, it's about bloodlines. So if you are part of that circle of people, like the top elite, okay, you're really concerned about bloodlines. And the reason why is that you need to explain in your mind why you have all this power, all this money. Because objectively, Bill Gates has like billions of dollars, right? So he's like 1,000 times wealthier than us, normal people. But he's like 1,000 times smarter? Probably not.
Mhm.
And so he sort of understands that, okay? So one thing that they're trying to look at is my bloodline different? Do I come from a race of the divine, right? Am I an ancestor of Hercules or Achilles, right? Because back in the Greek world, kings claim a divine bloodline where, the mother was raped by Zeus, or maybe the father was Hercules, a son of Zeus. So for the elite, bloodline is very, very important. And they're constantly proving that how they're descended from like the most powerful people, emperors, right? So if you look at Epstein's emails, one thing that he was very obsessed with is family heritage, where he was having a conversation with Arende de Rothschild, uh, who was a member of the Rothschild family. And one thing that he told her is, look, there were three families that were very powerful in Europe, Jewish banking families. They were the Rothschilds, the Epsteins, and the Gutmans. And we built a shelter, and Hitler lived in the shelter for a long time. And he was obsessed with this heritage of his, proving to himself and to others that the Epsteins is one of the most powerful families in the world. They're part of the Illuminati. They're up there with the Rothschilds. So this is what the elite is just obsessed with, proving to themselves in the world that they're just divine,
Mm.
and that's why they rule. Because it's not because of their brilliance, it's not because of their ability, it's not because of their leadership skills. It's because they're divine. Their blood is just different from ours.
Mhm.
Jeffrey Epstein sent this, like the Pope article, now reading how God exercised improper power dynamics with the Virgin Mary, no consent. Jeffrey Epstein learned it from God, and so did we. Every victim in the Epstein file is the Virgin Mary, and not because they are pure and innocent, but because we've been taught that their body's pain doesn't count. Christianity's inability to sit with the troubling complexity of Mary's story has made it a training manual for how to not see grape, how to erase what happens to women's bodies, how to only count the suffering that doesn't threaten male power. This is the pattern that founded this country. The founding fathers raped and had children with enslaved black children. Jefferson with Sally Hemings, who was 14, about the same age as Mary when she conceived Jesus. One story we call holy, and the other one complicated, a relationship, a liaison, anything but what it actually is. Epstein didn't invent anything. He just carried on the torch.
Hello, brothers and sisters. How are you doing? I'm hoping that you are doing great. Now, we all know very well that there's been something that has been going on for the longest time, and people don't want the truth. When we talk about like white history, we have seen some given patterns that has been going on for the longest time. The pattern in pillage, rape, murder, and all those crazy things that has happened, and all this has been documented on the history. Shadi Yeto. And all this has been documented on the history of white people, because there is nothing great about them when you get to look at the truth. But right now we understand the people behind the mask, they are the elites. Okay, we have the true side of the truth about the elites, the people that have the power to control every factor of production, the BlackRock, the Vanguard, the Wall Street, name it all, right? But there is a dark truth. Sorry, I forget about my mic. There's a dark truth about them. And the truth is, they are planning something evil to the entire human population. There are a couple of projects that have been going on in Africa. Probably somebody's not talking about them. Now, some have been happening in Congo. Some have happened in my country, Kenya. But these are things that has been going on for the longest time. And there is a war that is being waged on human beings, especially Africans and black people generally. Of course, you've had cases of black women missing, black kids missing, and everything. There's a part of the truth that we are not being told. There's a part of the truth that they don't want us to know. I don't know whether it's fear or I don't know whether it's anything. You might call this a conspiracy theory, but this is something that has been happening because we've looked at the numbers of missing black kids, missing black women, even back here in Africa. Kids been missing every week, every now and then. Kids been missing. News is not covering this enough because probably, I mean, I don't know. They're being told, not to say some things. But the truth will get out there. So in this video, we are going to see a Chinese scholar called Professor Jiang Shujin. He talks about the obsession with bloodlines, the elites have an obsession with some group of people. That's just the truth. So brothers and sisters, I want to switch this video and then I'll be back. I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. And if you're watching me for the first time, I'm your host and presenter Genetic Story. So stay tuned to watch the video. I'll be back.
Talk to my wife about why Jeffrey Epstein was doing what he was doing. Like why are they doing this? Because it's disgusting. And her explanation makes the most sense. So, I mean, my wife, she's not from a powerful family, but she grew up in a very powerful organization. And from her early age, she's dealt with powerful people, okay? So she knows what they're like, okay? And she explained to me how they are, okay? So the powerful people are usually born into a position of privilege. And if you're like that, there's no excitement in your life. There's no challenge. It's only just privilege. And privilege is boring. It's numbing. Okay. So for them, the greatest challenge is how do you find excitement? How do you stir a feeling in your heart in this world? Her explanation is you do it for children. Okay. Why? Well, first of all, it's like having a doll, right? A doll you can play with, a cat you can play with, but children are much more exciting. You can play with them, you can control them, you can manipulate them, you can abuse them. And the other thing is that you can scare children much more easily, okay? So, there's conspiracy theory where the elite draw energy from adrenochrome, okay? And adrenochrome, okay? And adrenochrome is just, blood that is excited, blood that comes from fear, okay? And so you drink that blood because this blood is rejuvenating. Well, that's a metaphorical statement where as a powerful person and you see a child in fear, that excites you. That excites you both sexually and psychologically and emotionally. And so, you have seen these videos of like Prince Andrew just running around and grabbing children. And he was like really, really excited, really, really happy when he's doing that. And the reason why is that's the only thing that can bring him excitement. Another example is a Squid Game. I'm not sure if you've seen the Netflix series, The Squid Game, right? The entire premise of the Squid Game is you have all these rich people in South Korea, and they have the most money in the world. They can do whatever they want. They can sleep with the most beautiful movie star in the world. They don't want to do that because it's boring. Okay, they're looking for some excitement in their life, and that's why they create the Squid Game. All right, so the Squid Game is just a metaphor for Epstein Island, where these people are bored, man. They're bored by everything. They're bored by their own lives. They're bored by the people around them because they're all psychopaths. They're bored by power itself because they've experienced it all, and so they're looking for novelty in their lives, and that's what children bring. Okay, there's also, and it's like, why are they so blatant about this? And my wife says it's psychology, where you have to have a risk of getting caught. You have to have the risk of being exposed in order for this to be exciting, okay? If it's all just hidden from everyone and no one can ever find out and there's no risk, it's not funny. It's not fun anymore. right? So I understand this sounds really disturbing, but unfortunately, if you give a certain group of people too much power, then this is the way they behave, and this has been true historically. Okay, you look at any society in China. Guess what, guys? We do the same thing. All right. Don't think that Chinese are more superior because of Confucianism. Don't think that the Indians are superior because of their Vedic tradition. No, everyone's the same. If you put people in positions of power, they're going to abuse it. All right. And what they want ultimately is novelty, excitement, feeling. All right. So like just you and me, we feel a tremendous rush when we achieve something. Well, they've achieved it all. So they need these sort of like sadistic, satanic rituals in order to feel alive again. Look, the other thing that is not being in the Epstein files, but I'm sure there's lots of them, are snuff films. Okay, I'm sure there's lots of these things because that's what they do, man. And just recently, the United States, called the Department of Justice, they released about 3 million documents. And what they discover is that he knows everyone who's powerful in the world. Bill Gates. Once, before the wealthiest man in the world, he was begging Jeff Epstein for money. Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in the world, he's actually trying to arrange an appointment with Jeffrey Epstein. All right, why? Because Jeffrey Epstein says, I represent the Rothschilds. All right, your money is fake. Your money is stock market money. Your money is an illusion. I represent real money, real power, real wealth. Okay? These are parasites. They look at geopolitics and they're like, how can we take advantage of geopolitical events to make the most money for ourselves? So what's happening is a civil war between the elite, these people, and the counter-elite. People who want to take the position and become the parasites. Okay? And that's why we're seeing this conflict right now emerge in America. Okay? All right. So now what I want to do is I want to go more into the structure of this world. Okay? This. What I want to show you is that Jeffrey Epstein is one of the operators of the system. He works for the Rothschilds, as well as secret societies, as well as transnational capital, and he is embedded in science, crime, and intelligence, okay? And again, the evidence is something called the Epstein files. All right, so let's look at the Epstein files. Okay, so this is Jeffrey Epstein, and this is Donald Trump. All right, Jeffrey Epstein died in 2019 in a federal prison. And he was being charged with many crimes, and the FBI ran an investigation into him. And just recently, the United States, called the Department of Justice, the DOJ, on their website, they released about 3 million documents pertaining to the Epstein investigation, and a lot of these are emails. And what you discover is that he knows everyone who's powerful in the world. So for the longest time, it was believed that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent, okay? And his job was to lure powerful Americans such as Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, to his island called Epstein Island, where he would film them engage in compromising activities. And then he would blackmail them, okay? And that was for the longest time what people understood to be Jeffrey Epstein's role. But then when you look at the emails, what you recognize is that no, actually, that's what he did for fun. Actually, he made most of his money in arms trafficking and in money laundering. Also, Bill Gates wasn't going to Epstein Island to give Jeffrey Epstein money. Jeffrey Epstein, he went to ask for money. Think about this, okay? Bill Gates, once before the wealthiest man in the world, he was begging Jeffrey Epstein for money. Think about that. All right? Okay, so let us look at who he is. Okay, this is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, as you know, is one of the wealthiest men in America. And Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein are arranging a time to meet. Again, it's not Jeffrey Epstein is seeking these guys out, they're seeking him out, okay? Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in the world, he's actually trying to arrange an appointment with Jeffrey Epstein. All right, why? Because Jeffrey Epstein says, I represent the Rothschilds. All right? Your money is fake. Your money is stock market money. Your money is an illusion. I represent real money, real power, real wealth. Okay? All right. The Rothschilds. All right. So Jeffrey Epstein is very close with the Rothschild family. Why? Well, this is Irena de Rothschild, one of the members of the Rothschild family. Okay? And in December 2018, okay, this is a year before he dies, all right, Jeffrey Epstein sends Aaron de Rothschild an email saying, hey,
Has China talked about the Epstein files? Is this in the media at all? What's the average person's perception of that as far as you can tell living in China?
yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, but the Chinese imagination doesn't really exist. It's a very narrow algorithm. And it's, you know, I mean, like I talk about how for the Freemasons, China is a vast colonial project. They've won, they've succeeded. So look at the communists, you look at the Marxists. If you look at the history, the secret history, there was Freemasonic involvement, there was Jesuit involvement. Some of the earliest communists, Mao Zedong, they were being mentored by people aligned with the Jesuits and the Freemasons. These things did not happen organically, okay, because they wanted Marxism to triumph, because the world they want to create is techno-marxism, okay, right? If you just look at what Pax Judaica is, if you just look at what the Holy Empire of Reason is, it is techno-marxism. In fact, if you read Zbigniew Brzezinski, Between Two Ages, and he writes about the coming of the techno state. It's techno-Marxism, okay? And like Brzezinski was a Templar himself, or was a Christian. Who knows? Like again, I don't know the specifics, okay? But I'm pretty sure he's a Freemason. And so China is key to that, because what China has done is wiped out historical memory. You know, when you wipe out historical memory and all cultural residue, then you allow for the algorithmization of the human mind. You can turn the human mind into pure reason. So in China, when you interact with Chinese people, they're no different from algorithms, okay? If you want someone to work, you're like, how much money are you going to pay me? It's never like, do I care? Am I interested? Will this make me good with God? They don't care. It's like, how much are you going to pay me? Right? In China, they have a saying, okay? It's like, survival is the highest reason. Imagine that. The only point of living is to survive. If you survive, you won. Like, what is this crap?
Has anyone even looked at Jeffrey Epstein's background story? Because I have. And it does not add up. Picture this. 1976, you have a college dropout teaching physics at one of the most prestigious schools in Manhattan. And 2 years later, he gets picked up by Bear Stearns, one of the largest investment banks at the time. It's not an internship, it's not an analyst position. He goes straight to the trading floor. Talk to anybody on Wall Street. This kind of thing does not happen. And 4 years after that, he becomes limited partner. He must be the fastest partner track promotion in the history of Wall Street. 4 years today in investment banking, you're barely out of your analyst years. And as if all of that was not enough, he quits the position a year later to do consulting. There are much meagerly paid VPs out there who have golden handcuffs. And this guy, an option trading prodigy apparently, just leaves his job after a year? It's almost as if that was not his real job. Shortly after that, Epstein is wrapped up in one of the largest Ponzi schemes in US history, the largest before Bernie Madoff. And Epstein, despite being one of the key men in that operation, gets off scot-free. A few years later, he has his own advisory shop with one client. No audits, no employees, just Les Wexner, who gives him power of attorney over $1 billion worth of assets. He goes around buying $1 million mansions, 727s, and even private islands. Fast forward to 2007, he gets caught up in child abuse allegations. But Epstein and several other people involved get a secret plea bargain. If this was a TV show, we would say it's badly written plot armor. And this is just this guy's life before all the stuff we know him for. Why is it that nobody's raising questions about this? Because the only way this actually adds up is if Epstein is an intelligence operator. And that would mean somebody somewhere decided that all of this was worth it.
Jeffrey Epstein sent this, like the Pope article, now reading how God exercised improper power dynamics. With the Virgin Mary, no consent. Jeffrey Epstein learned it from God, and so did we. Every victim in the Epstein file is the Virgin Mary, and not because they are pure and innocent, but because we've been taught that their body's pain doesn't count. Christianity's inability to sit with the troubling complexity of Mary's story has made it a training manual for how to not see grape, how to erase what happens to women's bodies, how to only count the suffering that doesn't threaten male power. This is the pattern that founded this country. The founding fathers raped and had children with enslaved black children. Jefferson with Sally Hemings was 14, about the same age as Mary when she conceived Jesus. One story we call holy, and the other one complicated, a relationship, a liaison, anything but what it actually is. Epstein didn't invent anything. He just carried on the torch. In 2013, Epstein commissioned this investigation into the origin of the Little St. James Island, which becomes the Epstein Island, to see if he can change the official name. The research came back and it was named after the relative of Virgin Mary, and he started calling it the Little St. Jeff. 5 years later, he sent that text. He was studying Mary's lack of consent while enacting what happened to Mary on the island bearing her family's name. This wasn't just passive cultural conditioning. It was conscious theological engagement. Where did he learn that a powerful man impregnating a young girl, especially one with no legal personhood, no ability to refuse, could be anything but grape? He learned it from Mary. We learned it from Mary. That when the man is powerful enough, important enough, chosen enough, what happens to her body can be called sacred destiny, participating in something larger than herself. This theological template for accepting predation became the template for political power, oligarchical power, and all of these systems required us to believe that certain men's access to certain bodies is just part of the natural order. The Bible was written by men in a world that treated women's and girls' bodies as available to male power. Whether the authors intended to justify the systems or portray the systems or simply could not imagine anything else, the effect is the same. We inherited Epstein's textbook, the sacred text that teaches us not to see violation as violation if the man is powerful enough. This is a 12 to 14-year-old girl impregnated by God who says, "Let it be done unto me," when the power dynamic is a child versus the entire cosmic order. This surrender to overwhelming force is what we call holy. This is how we've theologized predation as sacred, as inevitable as the way things are. Her impregnation is this floating signifier of receptivity to male power, no matter earthly or divine. The only good woman whose body is untainted by sex and yet has evidence of sexual activity is Mary. And yet she experiences no sexual pleasure throughout her life because she has to remain perpetually virgin. Her pain, her tearing, her recovery from labor is fully erased. This mother of sorrows, her only acceptable suffering is emotional. Watching her son die at the cross. And even then at the cross, Mary is silent, sorrowful, and contained. What if she screamed and refused to make meaning, refused to witness silently, demanded that this shouldn't have happened to her body? And then there's the assumption where Mary doesn't even get to die. Her body just disappears entirely. What would Mary's story be if it was written by a woman? What world can we build if a young girl's body isn't required for the human and divine to meet? This isn't rejecting Mary. It is seeing her and asking, what happened to her body? What did pregnancy feel like at 13? What did childbirth do to her? Where is her rage, her fear, her bodily autonomy? Skipping over the body to get to the meaning, the redemption of every story of violation is how we learn to tell survivors that their suffering should have a purpose, that they should heal in ways that make us comfortable, that they should turn their violation into inspiration. Accepting that power dynamic wholesale, divine over human, enslaver over enslaved, billionaire over teenager, is how we learn as a society that women's bodies don't register pain for themselves, only for others. That we are only here to watch, to witness, to never be angry, to help erase the injustice done to us. This is why we ask victims, are you pure enough? Did you resist enough? Were you too knowing, too complicit? Did you also say, "Let it be done unto me"? The files are out, but can we see what's in them when we've been trained for 2,000 years not to look at women's bodies at all? Do we still know how to look? I am Connie Chen, here to help you deconstruct everything. Check out my Patreon for bonus content.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. As you know, I'm your host and present hygienic stories. It's a beautiful day that God has granted unto us, and I think it's imperative if we talk about essential or important things that needs to be talked about. Now, we know very well that this is not a rocket science. This is something that has been going on for a while now. There are many projects that are being done in Africa. Let me talk about my country first, Kenya. Our president is not talking about it so much, but we know that there are a couple of projects that are being conducted, and they're using Africans, they're using Kenyans to do, these things. They're introducing a couple of things that might look normal on the surface, but when you get to look at the Bible, there are a couple of things that were told that will happen. There is so many surveillance that is happening. The mass surveillance that is going on is to keep you on a loop, is to keep you think about all those things that have been going on for the longest time. You might think that it is normal, but the reality of the matter that it has never been normal. It is something that has been going on for a while now. It is something that needs to be talked about. It is something that needs to be called out, because this is something that has been going on for a while now. People are noticing that the elites are so much obsessed with the black bloodlines, whether in Africa or in America. So many essence, so many theories are trying to explain about this, because the plan of the elites is to reduce the population. And we had people like Bill Gates who talked about reducing Africa's population. In short, reducing blacks' population. But you get that this is something that cannot happen easily. There is something about black people. No matter how many times you try to suppress black population, it will always grow up. And there is this enormous fear that is going out there that in future, in every population, in every 3 people, 2 people will be African, or 2 people will have been African descent, or 2 people will be black. That tells you a lot. That tells you the truth and the fear that they have. So the elites, they're not great people. They are people behind. They are people with money, but full of fear, because black people have something that money cannot buy, and that's melanin. That's the power of black people to adapt in different harsh weather. So as times changes, as population changes, other population keeps on falling down. But the black population stands and it still grows, and people are asking themselves, we are being replaced, and this is a major replacement that is happening. So because of that fear, they are creating systems, they are creating institutions that will try to reduce the black population. And there is a war which is waged against black people around the world. Call it conspiracy. Maybe you're right. But this is the truth of the matter. This is how I understand. Somebody said that I've been saying for a while that the super wealthy elites are the weakest among us. They've never had to work hard and challenge themselves to grow. They have to create drama and struggle because they've never lived it. Also, they know that they are weak, so they fear the majority will discover this. Some of us knew this all along because we've always had to fight the power. They can never wipe black people out. We are the line of Jacob. We ain't going nowhere. We did the Israelite tribe of Judah. So the truth is out there. And the truth is that these people, they fear reality. And the reality that they fear is that there will come a point that black people will grow, that the population in the black community will be much better. And this pushes them to have enormous fear in regards to everything that is happening. So while I was watching this video, I didn't take it as a conspiracy. It was a message that I understood in regards to things that are going on. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you will think about this. And as you know, I'm your host and presenter, Genetic Stories. But until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.